Igor, are you familiar with the idea of the shadow, which is Carl Jung, the psychologist?
Sure.
Things we resist and fear, and I don't know if Kashmir Shaivism has any association with that, but I know myself that a lot of my own spiritual path has been confronting the shadow, and I don't know that it's Indian. I haven't found it in Indian spirituality, but I think in Western culture that it's kind of a dynamic because of all the things we have here that are at play. Sort of the ego, it sort of feeds the shadow.
Sure. First of all, I don't agree that ego feeds the shadow, but we'll deal with that later. In fact, there is no shadow in Oriental spirituality, because Oriental spirituality departed from psychological approaches a very long time ago. What is called shadow in Indian philosophy, in Buddhism, in Vedic, yogic, tantric tradition, or any tradition, is known as simply as psychological impressions. Vasanas. Vasanas are the impressions that laid sediment in our psyche. And layers of these vasanas formed samskaras. Samskaras known as that what prompts us to, or prompts the soul to reincarnate over and over, to re-experience the fruits of its actions. So it's a kind of a classical approach. So Jung, although Jung was very much steeped, as you know, in Indian, or in all things Indian. In fact, it was Carl Jung who gave us first proper seminars on Kundalini, sometimes around 1936 in Munich, these legendary lectures that he gave to the elite of the intellectual life of Europe at the time. But not much known about it, precisely because he was way ahead of his time. He was deeply familiar with tantric knowledge and deeply familiar with. However, I don't think he was able to overcome and fully integrate what he has learned. As we know, Jung did not become a meditator. He did not become actually, let's say, the investigator of his own theories. He remained that kind of like a detached witness, a psychologist. And upon that, he built all his, what we know his teachings for today. So what is called shadow is nothing but undigested, unprocessed psychological stuff that lays sediment in our psyche. And everyone who has ever embarked on a spiritual journey knows that there are moments when this repository is simply being cleansed out, purged out of our system. Okay, some traditions are more, let's say, direct about it. Others slightly beating a bush about this whole process and give a more or less vague descriptions. For instance, in yogic and tantric spirituality, it is absolute necessity for the awakening of the life force, because only upon the awakening of that life force, of that sacred energy, that process can truly be facilitated, because by its very nature, up until that latent force is at a dormancy, up until that sacred energy, which is the embodiment of consciousness on psychophysiological plane, is at its dormancy, we are not even aware of the deepest shadows that lurking at the back of our mind and our being.
What is the light force? I mean, I'd say
Kundalini, Holy Spirit. In Christian spirituality, it's simply known as Holy Spirit.
You mean it's that, or others would say it's that part of it's divine or has a...
It is that what speaks now through you. That energy, everything, that what understands, that what supports everything, that's what now takes care of the metabolism, that what creates all these electrical responses in the brain and gut and brain reaction. Prana, there's another term, prana, but there are various pranas, so I don't know how much time we have today. I can go into great depth into this because it's a science in itself. You know, that there are several pranas in the body and how each of them function and what is allocated to the functioning of each prana and how that prana, how that life force is all basically being conducted by that utmost energy known as Holy Spirit on individual plane.
Would you say that Holy Spirit or that light energy sort of shines on the vasanas, or it dissolves?
Okay, that's brilliant. So it's like you're following up. This is what I was going to. It doesn't shine light on it. Instead, what it does, it steers this whole psychophysiological, let's say, system. It creates much higher frequency of vibrations. And depending where the awakening took place, it will free that information that has been stored deep in the subconscious. Because when we operate with these terms, conscious, subconscious, right, superconscious, unconscious, this kind of like accepted within the Western psychology terms, in Oriental spirituality, all this is also immediately linked to its respective relative sphere of influence and where they are situated. You know, because somehow it's a bit too vague to say subconscious. So where is that subconscious? Where is that where is it located? Is it at the back of my head, down in my gut? You know, is it somewhere in my toes? You know, where that subconscious lives. But Oriental spirituality is very direct about it. Your astral body, that's what, you know, every energetic center known as chakras, this is where the subconscious is. This is where all the information is being stored. Every element and every energetic center is associated with an element. You see? Every element stores, or every energetic center associated with a particular element stores certain expressions, certain impressions, which are known as vasanas, that repository, that kind of, basically that which disallows us or that which prevents us from experiencing our pure nature, because these vasanas literally abstract consciousness of the self to recognize itself in its full measure. And each respective psychic center, right, these energetic wheels, the psychic centers, these chakras, I'm using all these various terms so that not to lose you in Sanskrit terminology or otherwise, holds information, that information that was stored there in the first place. You see? So this is as far as the shadow goes. So there's no such thing as shadow. It's simply unprocessed information. And when we are able to process that information, it's no longer shadow. What is shadow anyway? What is shadow? It's a lack of light, something which, darkness. You know, we look and it's in a shadow. It's shadow. It's like I cannot see it clearly. Yeah, of course. When there is not enough light, everything looks scary. Everything looks a bit, not what it seems. But it's helpful to have that radical leap of understanding, even, that there is no such thing like a shadow. Everything that we experience as our own, let's say, the stuff that comes, that we are faced to deal with, I say, echoing this great kind of like Sufi tradition, when the dust falls on the mirror, use it to polish it. So that very material, that very stuff that is being there, it's for a purpose, for a reason. Otherwise, we would have come into this world as saints, as beings of light, as these avatars, as whatever, indigo children, you know. Embracing ourselves as we are is the first step in understanding of how really consciousness is made, you know, how consciousness is actually constructed, this manifested realm. Because what is lacking in our understanding today more than anything, or more than ever, you know, in the past, like, I don't know, few centuries, is that what religions did, that they positioned the divine somewhere else. What a dear person to me, Llewellyn Van Lee, speaks about, like the God was banished from the earth. Once the God is banished, right, then we are left to our own devices here, right? The Godhead is somehow not here. And that was the picture, that was the situation for quite some times. And if you look into many other religions, the situation was not different. It's the same. And so the duality, the gap was widened. And we carry it in our genes. And we carry it in our genes. So the first message, the first proper is that you are divine as you are. Not divine just in principle, in some kind of hypothetical or prospective or potential state, but divine because you are human. Do you see how significant that is? That human physiology, that human nervous system is the greatest achievement of this evolutionary process. There is no greater achievement in cosmos. Tantra says everything that could be found in the outer space could be found in this very body.